know what? I'm just going to leave the cap off.
Go. Shh. Good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever in the world you happen to be. Whoever you are, welcome once again to Full Fat Spoiler Chat, our newest show that we're doing live here on all our social media platforms, where we talk about some relatively recent, last week was V for Vendetta because of the timing, so not that recent, but relatively recent piece of entertainment, and we look at what was good about it, what was bad about it, what the themes were, etc., and that means we spoil the hell out of it. This week it is The Witches, the latest version, the 2020 version on HBO Max, and in theaters, if some of you actually went to the theaters to see it, and starring Anne Hathaway, Olivia Spencer, etc., etc. Octavia Spencer, thank you. I keep wanting to mix up her name with Olivia Colman, which not the same people remotely. But anyway, I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. I am joined with a wonderful, sizable staff right here, and we're going to start with the ladies, and we'll start with somebody who hasn't been on one of these shows in a long time. Ashley, introduce yourself if you would, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, hey everybody, my name is Ashley Lauren Rogers. I'm primarily a playwright and a podcaster based out of Brooklyn, New York. And yeah, I'm really happy to be back. I'm really happy to be back on one of these types of shows of Nerd Caliber. Yeah, I'm just very excited.
And if people want to see some of the stuff that you're doing, where would they do that?
Yeah, so if you want to check out my material, the best place to go is ashleylaurenrogers.com. That is my website. You can also check out the Is It Transphobic podcast at isittransphobic.com. And yeah, most of my theater stuff, I've got a show that's coming up in about a week, actually a week from tonight, Rossum's Universal Robots with No Exit Theater Collective. I'm directing that one, and it's going to be weird and wonderful and steampunky, just like everything that I love.
Awesome. Very cool. And on my screen, I don't know about you folks, but right below, Ashley, Gogo, introduce yourself if you would.
Hi, I'm Gogo Incognito. I love being a part of Nerd Caliber. I have been working for them as a video hostess at cons for years and have joined the live streaming shows. I think this is almost like maybe 2 years of this, but this is my first time on this show. So I am super excited because we get to talk about other things in different ways. Anyway, I am a cool chick, and you can see for yourself if you find my Instagram. I've got all sorts of stuff on there, and it's at gogo_incognito. Now, it's easy to remember because it rhymes. Gogo Incognito. And don't forget to check my stories because that's where the real gritty stuff is.
Oh, it's spoiler chat. You can say shit. We're
That's
a little.
Where the really gritty shit is. And actually, right now, I've got these great gritty memes from Philadelphia, so I speak the truth.
Awesome. Very cool. And the only one brave enough to wear a hat, Byron, introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, guys. Byron McNeil, a.k.a. Byron D0 on multiple facets of the internet. I am a content creator, social media specialist, and writer for Nerd Caliber. Got a lot of cool projects coming up on my end. Got my anime podcast up and running. We just recorded our newest episode last night. The podcast is called the Weeb Trash Can Podcast. It will be on most available platforms, specifically iTunes and Google. So that'll be fun. I'm also an artist. I have a bunch of stuff on various facets. Byron D0 on like DeviantArt and a bunch of other things. And on Instagram, I have my artist account, which is the artist known as Byron D0. All one word.
As opposed to the former. Or just a symbol. So.
Yes.
Awesome. Excellent. And we're going to have a lot of fun here tonight because there's a lot of good stuff. People already in the chat. Strawberry, hello. Estevan Trevino, I had already watched that movie. I hacked Netflix. It's on HBO Max. It might be also being distributed on Netflix somewhere. So, if that's where you saw it, good for you. Greg Snyder, hi. Sorry I spaced on joining the party tonight. Spoil some witches for me. Oh, Greg. All right. And we will. We'll do that. Strawberry, I feel like I'm in class. God, I hope we're not going to be that. Well, maybe you had great, fun teachers. Hopefully we'll be fun.
Hey, Strawberry, if you want, we can pass notes, like behind
go.
Rodney's back and stuff like that.
In the
Wow.
in the Zoom chat. I mean, no, in the
There you go. Get into the YouTube chat. So speaking, nobody yet in Facebook or Twitch. So any questions, throw them at us. But says spoilers up there, says spoiler down there. It's in the title. We are going to be spoiling the witches. If you are not afraid of spoilers of the witches because you've seen it, or you don't care, or you didn't see the one 30 years ago, or read the book, then please go away. We don't want to ruin it for you.
3 years.
1990.
Oh,
So yeah, I know. Don't think you feel old, dude. Anyway. So the first thing, let's talk about what this is. The Witches, it's based on a book by the British author Roald Dahl. The first version of it made on film was in 1990. It was a version directed by Nicholas Roeg, starring Angelica Houston. And it was a critical hit, not much of a theatrical hit. Became sort of a cult movie later on.
Exactly.
And then, for whatever reason, it was decided that it needed to be redone. And Robert Zemeckis, the famous director of Polar Express and Forrest Gump and so on.
Back to the Future.
The whole Back to the Future series. Is the director, again, starring Octavia Spencer, thank you, Angelica Houston, and I'm going to butcher his name.
Not Angelica Houston, Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway.
Hathaway.
It's the drugs, folks. No, it's not. And Jazir Bruno. That's really funny. His actual last name is Bruno, and his buddy's character's first name is Bruno.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
That's must have been confusing on set. As only identified here as Hero Boy, I thought I heard his grandmother call him by his name once.
Yes, once, and I forget what his name was.
Yeah, I do too.
But I actually I watch things with the subtitles. I never want to miss a word.
Yeah.
I totally noticed and loved when, in parentheses, we'd know who was talking. It would say hero. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And in the IMDb credits, he's listed just as Hero Boy, Chris Rock, the narrator, older hero Mouse, Octavia Spencer, Grandma, and so on. Actually, I don't even think Anne Hathaway is given, just Grand High Witch. She's not given the name that she was given in, either the book or the 1990 movie. So the way we do this is one of the first things we do is we look at, what people liked about this. And since you're so incredibly new to this particular show, Ashley, we're going to start off with you. What thing or things did you like the most about this adaptation?
Yeah, so first off, I have not seen any of the original version. I've not read the book, so this was me going in completely cold. I really loved the way that the children were portrayed. I thought that they were having fun, even though, again, we're dealing with a very real, very tough topic of this child's parents passing away, and just the way that they handled it with a sense of, okay, we're gonna try and push you along, but at the same time we've got to deal with the fact that you are grieving. So you can grieve in your own time, but you've got to move on with your life. As this whole other subplot was really well handled. So for me, as much as that was a very heavy thing, they did it so well, because it never felt like it dragged the movie down or made me feel sad. It just made me empathize for the character, and it made me put myself in his shoes in that way. So for me, that was the biggest thing that they did well. But also, I realized that it got a lot of flack for the CGI, but I thought the CGI was fine. I mean, it was actually fairly well done. as far as like added CGI. So for me, it didn't necessarily detract from the movie. It actually kind of enhanced it in a lot of ways. So yeah, those were the big things I thought that immediately worked. I'm sure that some of the other things that I know I'm interested in talking about are also going to come up from everyone else, so I won't take all of them first. But yeah, those were my biggest those are my biggest takeaways. Is it was scary and full of grief, but without necessarily being horrifying or pulling you out.
Yeah, I got to say before we get on to Go-Go, like I saw that and went, this is a Disney movie. Parents died, no, but apparently not. Anyway, Go-Go, what did you like the most about it?
I've got a few things. One, going back to what Ashley was saying about the little boy losing his parents and the grieving process. I just loved. I love Octavia Spencer anyway. I love, like, this was her role. Like, she absolutely excelled. She was fun. She was wonderful. And what I liked is that in updating this movie from the book or the 1991, they updated the whole idea. So in this case, we have Black protagonists. Yes, perfect, very timely. And also they changed from being in, the old continent. They're here, they're in the South. So there's a little bit of, that sort of, hoodoo culture or shamanist, I don't know what to say, shaman?
Shamanic.
Shamanistic?
That, yes, with, that sort of old-timey, medicine stuff that you can imagine. Like grandma knowing how to, sort of read omens and, put together all these herbal concoctions and, basically almost like making magic because, she knew how that stuff. So that was wild. Having the grandma be not just, a nice grandma was absolutely awesome. Having Octavia Spencer's the role, awesome. And I really, really liked Anne Hathaway in the role as well. I thought she nailed it. Her acting was over the top. It was hammy, but I think it was high camp, and I was actually jealous of her for having that role because having a role like that would be my dream. My dream. I mean, I can be very over the top when I'm in my MC role, when I'm in MCing shows and whatnot, but it's a fun persona to put on, and she was obviously having a blast.
Cool. Byron, same question?
Yeah, well, Gogo took a lot of the points that I was going to make.
You can agree.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with all the points that she made. Yeah, I love the fact that it was, and I also appreciated a lot of the little things, like when the grandmother and her grandson made it to the hotel, how they didn't go hard on the angle of segregation. It was hinted at. It's like you could see that in the way she checked into the hotel. You can see that with Stanley Tucci's character, with how he like puts on that fake professional facade that a lot of those snooty characters usually have. But at the same time, it's like there's nothing you can do about it because the deal's done.
Yeah.
So you can't, and the customer's always right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Sure.
It kind of, Byron's point is perfect. The way they show when the grandmother's talking about her friend who got taken by a witch when she was a child, the way they set that up with the landscape and how it was, you're like, oh, it's that, that's where we are in time. We're back when Black people had bad living in, the United States. And then when they get to the hotel and all of the service people, like the person's like, let me get your luggage, let me open the door, they're all Black. and the hotel guests are all white. Like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. That's what's going on, and it sets it without saying anything, but you're like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I definitely applaud Robert Zemeckis for that, because they're the issue of non-directors of color telling a POC story is a slippery slope, and I feel like he found that balance in this description. It's like, I know what I know. I'm not going to go any further.
Yeah, that's a good point. That might, I think that might explain why I have a problem with that, in that I lived through that era, not down there, up here in the north, and in 1974, there is no hotel in Alabama with George Wallace as governor who would let that family stay there.
Yeah.
Would not happen. But it's a fantasy movie, so I just like, okay, fine. They found the one. It's a fantasy movie. Yeah. It's cool.
Broken clocks right twice a day.
Exactly. But so for me, it really sort of soft pedaled what it was trying to do as far as that message about racism and class inequality and so on. But at least they tried. And you're right. Yeah. Having Zemeckis coming down too hard as a white man would have been a problem. So, all right, I get that.
I mean, this isn't Mulan after all.
Exactly. Please. Destiny Zapata, welcome to the show, or aloha. Strawberry, this is just like Class. All right, so if Strawberry thinks this is like Class, I'm running it too much like Class. So feel free to jump in on stuff that people are saying. If you've got a comment, go right ahead. We don't want it to feel like that.
All right, then I'm gonna comment, man.
I was just gonna say though, my other point that I wanted to make was the ending of this movie. Now, I've never actually read the book, but I know Roald Dahl's writing style. He's very subversive. He's not into happy end. He was never into happy endings. At least where everything goes back to normal and everyone goes back to living happily ever after. And I appreciated the fact that Robert Zemeckis respected the source material in that way.
Yep. Yeah. No, I agree, and we'll get into that, or at least I think I want to save my comments on that when we get into sort of execution and themes and so on. But no, I get your point, and I was honestly kind of surprised that he did, it being Zemeckis. Harry Brady, welcome back to the show, or welcome to the show. I don't know if you've been on this show before. You've certainly been on Nerd Week Live. Luis Labrada, hi, welcome to the show. And for those people who've just joined, again, we're spoiling the bejesus out of The Witches, the new 2020 version that's on HBO Max. So if you don't want it to be spoiled, please, turn the sound down and just watch us talk, or go somewhere else, I guess, would make more sense. Not, because we'd love to have the views still on here. Anyway. My things, I think I agree mostly with most of you. I thought the performances were pretty good. Octavia Spencer can't do anything wrong. And even though, in my mind, she occasionally fell down trying to deliver some of the dialogue, in part because a lot of stuff, Roald Dahl writes scenes that stick together to ultimately come to some kind of, like you said, not necessarily very satisfying conclusion. And they're really cool scenes. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and so on.
Yeah.
And so some of those, the dialogue in some of those scenes are kind of tough to have a human believably say. She did an amazing job with almost all of it.
There were some of the lines were absolute clunkers, or just seemed real dopey and kind of, and she and she's delivering, because there's a lot of CG in this, she's delivering it to she's holding
golf balls or something like that.
A golf ball or something that she's talking to, and I'm just like, she's doing the best. I thought she did the best she could with what they gave her.
Yeah. I agree. I thought her interaction with the kids after they had turned into mice was absolutely 100% no different than her interaction with them when they were humans.
Yeah.
And that's tough to do. So she was amazing. I thought the kids were pretty good, and I have low tolerance for bad children acting. One of the things that really turned me off of, the only thing that turned me off of any part of Good Omens was the kids. I thought the kids were pretty terrible. And everything else was amazing. In this case, I thought the kids were really pretty good, including doing the voice acting and the mocap, because clearly they did mocap for some of the faces. I thought Zemeckis finally nailed it with the mocap, in that, you know, he decided to let it be as Disney-esque or cartoonish or animation or whatever, and not trying to hit that uncanny valley with too much of their facial features looking like humans. For the most part, I think
this was not like Cats. This was not like Cats.
Oh God.
John Carter.
or even like Polar Express, where he said, "I'm going to make it look just like the illustrations, except motion captured animation." And it's like, oh, that's horrifying. In this case, he just sort of, I think he just sort of gave up and went, okay, you know, we're going to go with animated looks. I noticed my mic's running a little hot. Hold on here, I got to bring that down. We're going to go with, you know, animated looks, and you know, we're going to have post-adjustment Sonic as opposed to pre-adjustment Sonic, and everybody's going to be happy. So I like that. I like to some extent, and I'll get into this why, what you said, Byron, about him sticking to the final resolution or not resolution at the end. Keeping it consistent with the book.
I remember that from the original movie, where it's like where like the grandson turned back into a human, and you know everyone was happy, and the witches were destroyed, and like I didn't think anything about it as a kid, because you know in that time period that was the standard for children's entertainment.
Right, you're not going to make a children's movie model. Even with really scary, horrible-looking witches that are going to scare kids, you're not going to make a children's movie that ends on such a downer.
Yeah, I mean, they did the same thing with Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, they did.
Yep.
Yeah, they did. They had to reshoot that ending.
Strawberry.
Anyway.
Cats was my sleep paralysis demon for a while.
That makes sense.
You poor thing, but understandable. So, what did they not do right? What did you dislike about it, whether it was done right or not? Again, Ashley, let's start you rolling it along.
Give me no time to think. What didn't I enjoy? I guess I'm not. I guess like the only thing I didn't really, no, because I actually kind of liked that. No, like, well, I was gonna say like the idea of like, well, why is Chris Rock voicing this character who's like going to be this person if we know, like, and then by the end he's a mouse, and it's like, wait a second, oh, that child has now become a man, but in the scope of maybe a week, and is probably going to die very soon. So I guess the one thing I really didn't care for is the implication that, as much as I do like the ending and I will defend that ending, that, well, as much as there is a positive ending to it, that child is now a mouse and going to die a lot sooner.
Or that there was narration at all.
Well, I don't know, because I kind of dug the narration.
Me too.
I
liked it.
Both because when Chris Rock shows up to work, Chris Rock does an incredible job. Chris Rock is rarely lazy, but like, you know, when he is, everybody's got a sleeper. But like, he really... But yeah, he really brought something to it, and I think also that idea of like, he's not dead, the grandma's not dead by the end, everything is like, everyone is still alive by the end, is actually still very commendable in an ending that they chose to go with in this. But yeah, I guess Yeah, that's the only thing. Oh, the only other thing I didn't care for is just now that it's been out and we've seen it and we've seen the character designs. There was a lot of pushback that the movie got for Anne Hathaway, and specifically their choice to have her hands in the sort of like the claw sort of look. I don't remember the exact term, but that is based on a real physical disability.
Split hand syndrome?
It was
something like that.
There is a more scientific name for it. I apologize for blanking on that and not having it on my screen. But I will say that the studio and Anne Hathaway both apologized and had vowed to work towards doing more for the disabilities community. So there is some positive that still came out of it, but it is something that like we're looking at that as, oh, okay, you're demonizing a very real disability that people have, whether you intended to or not.
Yeah, I love the way they handled it.
Yeah,
because there's so, I mean, compare it to someone like J.K. Rowling, who they're called out and she just doubles down on her opinion. It's like,
I don't know what you're talking about. No.
Yeah, they handled the justifiable pushback pretty well. But you still get what designer came up with this, and then everybody from Zemeckis on down went, okay, instead of going with the way it's described or as it was in the original movie as just literally cat claws, they don't have fingernails, they have claws. Let's go with something that a quick Google search would show you is actually a disability condition. No. So yes, they definitely needed to apologize for that, but Jesus, that was stupid.
Yeah, it was.
So that's it, Ashley. Nothing else.
The only other thing now that I've kind of like stumbled into it is just there are real people that practice Wicca that are called witches, that consider themselves witches, and especially where we're updating a lot of this, it would have been nice to have seen some sort of like disambiguation. And there is a certain extent that, again, like because the grandmother is also practicing a lot of specific
Sorry.
No worries.
I hit my mic. Sorry.
So because of that, like there is a certain extent that like, okay, they're kind of doing that, but like it would have been nice to at least have an acknowledgement of Wicca does exist. Wicca is like, if you are a practitioner of Wicca, that's fine.
Yeah.
These are what we are calling witches, but they are really demons from hell.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, no, so Gogo, you've read the book, right? Before we get into your things that you don't like. I think in the book, and I have not, but I've read quite a bit about it, studying up on this. I think in the book, and certainly in the earlier movie, the character that doesn't exist in this movie, her assistant, either is in the movie or eventually becomes a good witch, correct? So they have a setup of there are good witches and bad witches.
That does not exist in the book.
Okay, then it must be just in the movie, in the 1990 movie.
Mm-hmm. That's not in the book at all, and in the book, Grandma is a lot less cheery. She's a chain smoker, and she's supposed to look really, really tough, but she's also not nurturing or much in the way of caring. So she's a tough old biddy, is what I'm saying. I'm not getting down on her, but she's a tough old biddy. And it was nice to see Octavia Spencer really show that you can be a badass while also being very nurturing. Yeah, kind, nurturing, taking care. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yep.
Yes.
So Gogo, your dislikes.
Okay, my dislikes. Ashley had said earlier that she didn't mind at all the CG. I thought the mice were done pretty well. I thought the cat was awful, and I really wanted that cat to be good, well done. I wanted that cat to be well done. I mean, they obviously didn't mocap any cats because they kept showing this animal, this feline. I have 3 cats. I'm very, very aware of how they move, how they jump, etc. And this one just it was took me out of it a little bit of like, come on, you couldn't get a trained cat to like walk around the room, and then you're getting how they jump and whatnot. And there's a bit where the cat is spying, and it like climbs down in between floors by going outside to the balcony, kind of shimmies down a drain pipe or something. and it does not look cat-like in any way, and that bummed me out. And I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to give the only pushback I would give on that is that, if this is the familiar for a demon from hell, this is probably also a demon from hell in some way. And so I'm like, okay, maybe they don't know how to make a they're trying to figure out this is how humans act. It's like, all right, well, this is a cat, maybe. I'm a cat, but
I get that, but then I would have loved. I get that, but I would have loved to have seen that explored a bit more then, because we got the familiars. We saw the one witch had the snake, which stays on her, wraps around and whatnot. And so we can assume that the other witches had their familiars. And, the cat does end up playing an important role for sure by the end, which I'm not going to say because I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, it's a spoiler show, so you can spoil the hell out of it all you want.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. Cat got a good ending for itself, where after sort of being snarked at and stuck in a cage that it didn't want to be, was let out of the cage. The Grand High Witch gets a taste of her own magic medicine, literally, and becomes the most disgusting rat creature. And I thought that, and I know we're supposed to be talking about things we don't like. I did like the design of how awful she looked, where the kids,
all the witch rats,
yes, the witches were bad people, or bad beings. They're not actually people, bad demons, says
evil.
And so they get turned into repulsive, frothing, mutated vermin, and the cute kids get turned into cute little mice that you want to put in your pocket and pet its little head. I'm sorry. I know this is things we didn't like. I actually.
Just a second. Comment from Strawberry. Yeah, that cat was weird. What's up with CGI and them not being good with cats? So she is agreeing with you on the chats. Your next point.
Oh, I thought that I love Stanley Tucci, and I feel like he was just sort of there. In the old movie, which I had started to watch today, Rowan Atkinson, I think that's his name. The guy who you'll know as Mr. Bean.
And Blackadder.
Right, exactly. Was not Mr. Bean or Blackadder. He played that, hotel concierge or floor manager, whatever he was.
I do remember him.
Yes. And, here's Stanley Tucci, someone who can play basically any role they give him. And he was just sort of there. And I was like, come on, man.
Yep.
Do better.
Byron.
I remember Rowan Atkinson playing that role a lot more snooty.
I completely forgot that Rowan Atkinson was in that movie, and I am one of the biggest Rowan Atkinson fans you'll ever meet. So that tells you how I responded to that original movie. I didn't even remember he was in it. So, Byron, your dislikes.
Okay, I didn't have a lot of things that I disliked about it. One of my kind of dislikes would have while I applaud Zemeckis for trying to be graceful with the acknowledgement of racism, I also feel like he played it a little too safe.
Yep.
It was. I mean, he did his best with his perspective, but I feel like he could with a quick couple of Google searches, he could have probably gotten a lot of information to make it more believable.
Yep.
And to echo what Lolo just said, Stanley Tucci was kind of just there. It's a gross underutilization of his talent. He's definitely a character actor, and someone who's followed his career since high school, I'll tell you that I applaud. I love anything that he's in. Well, almost anything.
Yeah, he was in some of the Transformers movies. So
yes.
just remember that. The guy got to make a paycheck sometime.
Indeed.
I'm not gonna tell someone you can't make money. Good for him. Good for him.
True.
Your paper.
John Turturro too.
One other dislike, and honestly, those are my big two because as a whole, I love the movie so much, and it was a fun ride, and it was a well-made film, so it's hard. It was hard for me to really find error in it. The CGI was a little cartoony, and Hathaway's performance was very cartoony. But it wasn't like they weren't perfect. But I didn't hate it.
Okay, and again, I thought that over the topness that she brought to it, I thought it was great. I felt like it was a choice. This was a choice. She made this acting choice. And then she committed to it and she went with it. And yes, people around the internet have been saying that her accent was shit. Yeah, but it was so bad that I feel like she kind of went back around with it again. Mm-hmm. So, but you know what, Byron, what I like, you do not have to like, and vice versa.
Well, yeah, I didn't hate it. Yeah,
all right, so folks, I'm going to be that guy. And because I've got so many things I dislike about this, I'm going to list them and let you guys all just rip me apart.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, all right.
All right. First off, Anne Hathaway. And I'm going to tell you why. One, that accent. There is not, I think Greg's almost going to say, yeah. Damn it. Greg is, in the chat, Greg is saying almost what my second point is. All right. I heard, having, know people who speak these languages, I heard Romanian, Russian, German, and Swedish. Her oohs were Swedish.
You know what I heard? I'm like Count Chocula.
Oh, Count Chocula.
All right. Should we let you get through your list, or should we rip you apart yet?
No. So let me start with the two things about Anne Hathaway. Okay. And this is actually more Robert Zemeckis, but yes, Anne Hathaway was way over the top. She was so over the top, it was tonally a completely different performance than anything else in the movie. There was no tonal balance whatsoever in the movie. You've got this movie that is an interesting and relatively tight, low-key exploration of this, fun thing about, these crazy witches, and then she comes in with fucking Yakko, Wacko, and Dot. I mean, it just... Anyway, go ahead.
So many opinions. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, if this was Stanley Tucci, I would agree with you. If this was Stanley Tucci, the hotel manager, be like, "Oh, hello, welcome to my hotel," I would say yes, absolutely. She is a demon from hell trying to understand what a human is so that she can eat children. I am so behind a ridiculous possible accent that shifts between. Maybe it's also just because I love Broken Matt Hardy and all of the pro wrestling weirdness.
Yes.
But to have this person who is a demon from hell being like, "Yes, I am a human. Ask me how I got these scars." Fine. I'm here for this campiness, but I also respect that it pulled you out of it.
Anybody else?
Yep. I've said multiple times now how much I love the campiness. I did hear the accent slip and become other things. I don't know if that speaks to Anne, just not prepping enough, being in this accent, so it went different places. I don't know if this is a choice that she was just like, you know what, this is just going to be a mishmash of accents. And if it was a choice, or if it's because she didn't give herself the time or didn't have the time to really work on it to be consistent with a vocal coach or something. So I would love to play that role. Please cast me in that role. I am already thinking how can I make this?
Go. I'm gonna bring you down. Yes, we know you want to be in that role, but this. Let's talk about counterpoint to my criticisms. So.
Yeah.
I didn't think she was too much, and I thought the accent. Yeah. I didn't think she was too much. I thought it was super fun.
It was just enough.
Byron, yeah, no.
So yeah. I'm actually kind of on your side about it to an extent. It was Like I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It was a choice that she made, and it's a good thing she wasn't expected to be taken seriously, because I sure as hell didn't take it seriously.
So let's look at a choice that was made to do a particularly really bizarre accent that tonally fit with the way the entire movie was done. Daniel Craig in Knives Out. He chose to do a southern accent that was so over the top and stereotypical that it was Foghorn Leghorn.
It was totally Foghorn Leghorn.
100% Foghorn Leghorn. But Rian Johnson knew that it fit what the rest of the tone of the movie was. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I'm watching these fantastic performances by Octavia Spencer and the kids. And even Stanley Tucci. So Stanley Tucci can eat scenery just as easily as Anne Hathaway did. Mm-hmm. And if his character met hers in silliness, zaniness, over-the-top ridiculousness, I would have been much less worried about her performance. Because you've got somebody else coming up there, and there is more of a tone of that silliness throughout at least this part of the movie, once they get to the hotel. Nobody did. There was nothing remotely like that.
One other point I wanted to make was I think the reason that it frustrates me is because I know that she's capable of so much more as an actress.
The only thing though is all the other witches, they had a certain, whether it was accent, whether it was way that they were vocalizing, whether it was the pace of how they are speaking, there was something just unhuman about them. And this is why I feel like it was a choice to go in this bizarre route. And I realized that it, like, for a lot of the tone, it feels like it was out. But at the same time, like, and again, like Daniel Craig in Knives Out, he was a real person. And again, it was very over the top. It was very stereotypical. It was but like, we're talking about a real human who is a detective,
right,
doing something that is just like maybe a little off and a little bit like over the top stereotypical. But I guess I will never be pulled out if you tell me this is an actual demon from hell trying to mimic human existence. I guess that's like, I will never be pulled out from that.
And obviously that is exactly what the character is. So I just thought if they go out of their way to make a point that that these demon witches, have a nationality or an ethnicity, the only named other witch called out is Saoirse, the one that opens the door, who has red hair and speaks in an Irish accent. It's an Irish actress. So they're setting them up to be a particular ethnicity or nationality. What the hell is Anne Hathaway's character? What nationality is that? Everything in Central and Eastern Europe.
She's the UN.
She's the UN or the EU. Greg, she was better at the same non-witch version of the same character in The Hustle.
I got to see that.
And he also says, I seem to recall a character saying she was Swedish. There were hints of Swedish, generic Scandinavian. Mixed in with the Bela Lugosi Dracula, mixed in with the Romanian and Russian. She just couldn't consistently decide whether she was going to roll her R's as a glottal stop, as 3 R's, or not at all. And I'm like, anyway, sorry. Zemeckis. The tonal problem is Zemeckis' problem. And it's tonal in every aspect of whether it's the witches or whether it's not. The witches marching in, crossover, almost goose step-like thing, getting to their seats. There are ways of portraying otherworldliness that isn't just, the Ministry of Silly Walks. And I think he missed that. This occurred to me just a couple of hours ago because I was looking through Zemeckis' previous stuff. This movie is mostly tonally Death Becomes Her. From style, from the type of attempts at comedy, from mixing what should be horror into what's just sort of weirdness. This is Death Becomes Her. as a Roald Dahl story. And I didn't like that movie either.
What?
Whoa!
Oh, God, I thought Death Becomes Her was one of the
Ooh.
dumbest things Robert Zemeckis has ever done.
Oh,
Wow!
What an
Okay.
amazing waste of talent, if you want to talk about that.
I it's become a cult classic, you know.
Yeah, for people
okay.
who are fans of a guy who likes to play with toy trains and dolls.
Yo, Rodney coming in hot on
Oh,
Ashley, I
yeah.
guess. Okay.
On Zemeckis. Zemeckis has an obsession with the toys, with the way things are made, with how to make a movie, with the construction. There is more Disney thrill ride aspects of this version than there should be. It's like in some cases a Spielberg movie, which makes sense. But anyway,
Yeah, he's definitely into the
tear me apart about Zemeckis.
The only pushback I would give to it's definitely a Zemeckis problem is there is potential. He has a big enough name that probably he didn't have a lot of oversight from studio, but at the same time, studio, it's like does this read kids? And it's just like for fuck's sake, like like we're trying, and so. That's the only reason I can really say to be like, maybe there's like, there might've been some oversight. There might've been a like, the kids are skewing that this is bad. I bad language, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Like if you had a problem with the tone, then yes, it is the responsibility does fall on Zemeckis. So
Anybody else?
I definitely didn't think it was a perfect movie at all. Rather than really liking the movie, I liked some of the actors and the roles that they portrayed. You know, like having Chris Rock be the narrator, I thought was perfect.
Yes.
I just loved that. But the movie as a whole, I am not actually rah-rahing The Witches as something I will go back and watch again and again, like I have with Death Becomes Her.
To each their own.
I know.
Not everybody likes Buckaroo Banzai, and I will die on that hill.
Same here.
I totally get that in no way was it a perfect movie. I liked it again for the acting, for the characters, for the little bits, and for how they updated it from both the book and the prior movie. So do I think it was well directed? Do I think it flowed? No. So I'm with you on that, Rodney.
Yeah. I think, and Zemeckis has had this problem before, and I don't think he had it in here. I was surprised to find that when it was done, I went, that was 2 hours? I thought its pacing, now its flow from point to point, yeah, I think, but that's the structure of the story as well. That's a problem with Dahl's, the way he creates all of his works. But I thought I was really surprised that Zemeckis paced this really quickly, and it brought me to the conclusion, and I kind of went, wow, I thought this was a 90-minute movie, and here it is 2 hours. So I'll give Zemeckis that credit 100%. Byron, anything anything on the Zemeckis front?
I have a love-hate relationship with his works. When he found the new toy that was CGI filming, I cringed at every attempt that he made. As for Death Becomes Her, it was a movie. It was there. Didn't love it. Didn't hate it. And ultimately, with The Witches, that's how I feel. It's like, it's a movie. It was there. Didn't love it. Didn't hate it. Probably not going to watch it again.
Earlier, Byron, you said you really enjoyed it.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh. The two terms are mutually exclusive, though. You can enjoy something like I enjoyed Breaking Bad, but I will never watch it again.
Oh no, I no, I'm right there with you as well. Totally. No, I'm just saying, you said, basically what you're saying now is, and I'm not trying to call you out. I'm just wondering, like, if maybe all this discussion that we're having and points that have been brought up has maybe changed your perspective of the movie, because right before we went live, you had said, you know what, I really enjoyed it.
Well, yeah. In that sense, like, maybe I was just caught up in my own hype. That might have been it.
Or maybe you really enjoyed that thrill ride, but you ain't never going to go back on it again, and you didn't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on those. It's like, wow, I really enjoyed that, but God, I didn't like it. And I'm never going on it again.
Mm-hmm.
But Byron, you don't need me to defend you. Greg again. Oh, Mr. Krakowian, welcome to the show. Again, we're spoiling the hell out of The Witches, the new HBO Max 2020 version. Anne Hathaway, Octavia Spencer. If you don't want to have that spoiled for you, I suggest you bid us a fond adieu. Greg, my biggest issue is that it had none of Dahl's dark, wicked humor. It was basically a Scooby-Doo movie.
I disagree on that point, because towards the end, that line that Hero Boy made about, yeah, we'll grow old and die together. It's like, wow, that's kind of morbid, kid.
Yeah, except Greg's point is humor. That wasn't at all an attempt at humor. That wasn't. Roald Dahl is known for some pretty dark humor. I mean, my God, the things that happen in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory are just brilliantly, beautifully, darkly comical. And I'm sorry, but Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, or I'm sorry, Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, that's the best performance. No, please stop. Just, yes, he wants those kids to do the most horrible things.
Yeah,
but
I mean, to Greg's point, I do see that. I do see that there is not a lot of necessarily dark humor. It is a very specific type of humor that is kind of put out there. And I think part of that is, again, like, and I might just be giving a lot of credit where it doesn't need to be, is that idea of, like, the studio system tends to favor less of that dark humor, especially for younger media, for children's media.
Yeah.
If it goes into a certain area, it starts to become something that they're like, we're taking a risk. We don't like doing that. Let's not do that.
Dangerous.
Yeah, and to that extent, it does lose a bit of that, but at the same time, it didn't pull me out myself.
Yeah, and I don't know. That could be the case. We don't know. I do know that Zemeckis is really well known for, at this point in his life, brooking no interference whatsoever. Now, I don't know if that was the deal with this. Maybe he saw a really big paycheck and went, "Hey, okay, I'll let Warner Brothers, pee in my cornflakes," but that's a really old editing term for reporters who hate us editors who pee in their cornflakes. Anyway, those are my real two big dislikes. I have to say. The rest of it, like I said, I really was surprised at how quickly it went. So therefore, how relatively exciting the pacing was, even if I didn't like an awful lot of what the story was around that pacing. So now I think it's time to move into, was there a theme? Was there a consistent theme? Was there even an attempt at a theme? And if so, was it a theme that was consistent with the original book or the 1990 movie? Ashley, any thoughts?
Of course, you're starting with me.
Okay, Ashley, keep thinking. Byron. Anybody, I'll throw it out there. Who wants to start first?
I can start from the perspective of having read the book.
Okay.
And I've read it, and I read it a long time ago, and I sort of got into a Roald Dahl kick, because his books are so quick. You can just go through, you can go through 3 in an afternoon if you're sort of a quick reader. So I reread it recently when this movie came out, and I will say the book, it's pretty short. Again, it's not going to take you much time at all to read it. So because it is rather concise, I feel like there actually is a theme, and the theme is witches are everywhere. You never know when you're going to bump into one. They want to kill and eat children.
Yeah.
Protect yourself from witches. Oh, well, now there's witches. You know, bad things happen. How do we take what's happened, being turned into a mouse, and still, you know, get beat witches? Witches are beaten. Let's go find other witches to beat up.
I think, yeah, to that point, a lot of it is very much bad things can happen, but it's not necessarily about the bad thing happening. It's about how you move forward. And as like very much kind of like it took you helping me out with that. Thank you, Gogo. But like I really feel like if I took a theme away from anything, it's not that, it's that anything can be overcome, and it's okay to live in the moment that is not happy and is not good and is not ideal, but you can move forward.
A very Japanese nobility of failure kind of concept.
For me, I would, a lot of the points that both the ladies made, I agree with. Where it's just like, and usually in these kind of stories, it's about there's a problem that needs to be solved. There's something that needs to be fixed. But in real life, sometimes there's no fixing the problem.
That is true. Just saying, Mr. Krakowian, wasn't Angelica Houston in the 1990 movie? That is correct. Yeah. She played the Grand High Witch, the role that Anne Hathaway has. And Greg, talking about Roald Dahl, he basically invented vicious snark. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I think, oh God, lost his name.
Terry Pratchett?
No, the late 1900s. Incredibly flamboyant playwright.
Oh, Oscar Wilde.
Yes, kind of think Oscar Wilde had had an edge on him there as far as
playwright win.
Yes, thank you. The playwright came through for me. Thank you, Ashley. So Byron, I'm sorry I cut you off there while I thought you were done, but you were continuing.
Let me reframe myself. It was, it wasn't. I love that part of it where it's just like, okay, cool. So there was no magic potion to make everything better, or no princess kiss, or yada yada yada, all that stuff. No grand panacea. I don't know if that's the name of the trope, but
the term applies. I agree, and I think so. Here's the one thing I'm not sure where I wanted them to fall down on either side of this, and I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to define it until again, Gogo, thank you. It is ultimately about bad things happen, and you can get past them and accept your fate and still live your life, whatever that life happens to be at that point. And I think that's the theme in the Dahl book. I think that's not the theme in the movie, because obviously it had a happy ending. I mean, the 1990 movie.
Yeah, the 1990 movie. And we talked about that as that's what you did, at the time is something happens, it goes back to normal, happily ever after.
Yep.
This was the style of the time, to go back to stasis. Yep.
Well, that's because everyone was trying to was following the Disney model.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And in this case, they only followed it by killing the parents, which is in the book. So it's not like, again, Disney didn't invent that. But in and around that, with the statement by Grandma that the witches attack poor people, and obviously the implication, because they are black, it's a people of color, marginalized communities, and so on. The view of it being set in the 1970s rural deep South Alabama, and then at the end, before they get into the statement from the book about how their own respective life expectancies being around 9 or 10 years, and the hero saying that he doesn't want to be taken care of by anybody else, so he's okay, and he's actually pretty cool with the idea of him and Grandma going at the same time. He mentions how when they're having fun, and he says I've felt like a boy, more like a boy than I have since all this happened, and Grandma basically says the best identity statement in a lot of movies recently. It's like, whatever you are, if you're a boy, you're a boy. And she says, and I feel like a little girl. And I thought, all right, cool. So this movie is about both racial identity in politics and also about actual individual, whether it's gender identity or however you want to define it. And then it turns right around and ends with, no, thematically, it really is about accepting when horrible things happen to you and moving on. And I'm like, I don't know which one of those I wanted it to be, but I kind of wanted it to be one or the other. And I think by sort of cramming those two statements right at the very end like that, I kind of felt like, oh, this is a movie about identity. No, what? Nope. Oh, okay, it's a movie about bad things happening to people and accepting it. Please make it one or the other.
I also sometimes felt like I got very confused and still feel this way as I was watching it of who is this movie for? Because it's not to me. I mean, kids could watch it, but I think they'd be bored or they'd be lost.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, yep. I did like some of the effects, the creepy effects with the Grand High Witch. Not talking about her hands now, which was a poor decision, but that the way her arms would grow. Yeah. I thought that was very well done.
Going through the air vents, that was really cool.
Very effective. That when she wasn't wearing a mask and that smile, and it was instantly obvious that yes, this is a monster.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, who is this for? Is it something for like sleepovers when those could happen for like preteens or young teens? Is it just supposed to be a campy Halloweenish, fall movie? It's definitely not for little kids. Or is it like a coming of age story? Because, the little boy, and we do see in this movie that he is sort of a stay-at-home kid. Stay inside. He's got his pet mice that he's very focused on loving and caring for and training. He doesn't want to go out and play, with his peers, whether it's when he moves to his grandma's or when they're at the luxurious hotel, which is on a beach.
Yep.
The grandma's like, why don't you go be with the kids? He definitely does not. So him then saying, I feel more myself as a mouse, I totally get that. And I thought the movie did set that up. Without, saying it. But then it's like, okay, so is this a coming of age story? Because now, he's gone from being a really, timid kind of stay inside child to making friends and bringing down the Grand High Witch herself.
Right. And I think just on Byron's point about, or your point about who it's for, Zemeckis has never made a kids movie for kids.
Right.
He's made kids movies for adults. Polar Express was not made for kids, even though it's based on a kid's book. He just, I don't think he knows how. And that's fine. That's okay. But to make this kind of seem like it's an adaptation that kids and adults could enjoy, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it ain't. And I think that's on Zemeckis. I just don't think he has the mindset to be able to do that. Mr. Krakowian, DW News did a segment on the Whispering Witches, who are an old ladies group, I guess, or something, that act psychics on the border of Belarus and Poland. Recommend. I don't know, DW. Don't know what that is. So if you can let us know, that'll help us track that down. DW News. So whatever that is. Sounds cool. Greg, oh God, no, Polar Express was nightmare fuel. Yep.
It's the only time people have been afraid of Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And again, this is why I have a problem. Zemeckis can direct actors wonderfully. Tom Hanks in almost anything he's been in, whether it's Forrest Gump or Castaway or whatever, that's a Zemeckis movie, is just fantastic. Everybody in Forrest Gump just emotes believably and really, and you feel everything they feel. And then he does, like Escape to Marwin and this, or in Polar Express, and you kind of go, in my opinion.
Da Vinci Code. Da Vinci.
Da Vinci. Well, okay, yeah. Even Tom Hanks misses once in a while. But hey, I bet he had a good payday for that one. So we actually went over an hour, so we're going to wrap this up really quickly. Final thoughts. What do you want people to think about this movie? Let's start with Gogo.
No, watch it if you want to watch it. Watch it if you can deal with or you're fine with every single thing we talked about. You can see differences of opinions about, how Anne Hathaway and how she played the role. Different, and again, the tone. I don't know, maybe you should watch it and see if you can figure out what this movie is about. Like, we obviously don't know.
Yep.
But it is fun. It's a fun thing, but it's not going to change your life.
Next, anybody ready to jump in? Final thought?
Yeah, like exactly what Gogo said. Experience it for yourself. It's an okay film at the end of the day. It's the one huge positive that I can take away from it is the fact that it shows the shift in children's entertainment for me that I wish I had when I was a kid, where it's just like we're telling grounded stories instead of just fluff that shelters children mentally. Because kids aren't stupid.
Ashley?
Yeah, I would say very much along the same lines. Like it is not necessarily in the same vein as a lot of the 80s children's media that I grew up with, that it was like all about the we don't care, here's some horror. And also, I loved it. Like, you look at Neverending Story, you look at Return to Oz, you look at a lot of these pieces of media, and it's just there are some horrifying stuff in there, and that was absolutely intended for me as a child. And I feel like it's not necessarily on that level, but it's definitely trying to find. It's another piece that's trying to find that sweet spot of how do we give children that exhilaration of fear without necessarily scare them and make them walk away from this completely. And so for me, I would say if you're just here for actors who have earned a right to have fun, having fun with media, I will show up. I will give them money to just be like, all right, you're worth it. Anne Hathaway, you're worth it. You've put in the time, you've put in the effort. I'm all about just watching you have some fun and have Melina teeth.
I got to say, before I get into my final thoughts, that particular thing, the crazy extended monster teeth mouth, is one of my very few absolute skeeve me right the fuck out.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
So anytime it's presented, hers or not, and in fact, I wasn't quite as disturbed by hers as I am by a lot of them.
Like Melina.
Like Melina, like the old 1950s movie Mr. Sardonicus, which is I think where it started for me. Just like, please no. But anyway, that's just an aside. I'm not going to do anything other than mostly echo what you guys said. When I saw that this was available and I saw that they were making it and I saw that we could watch it, I wanted to watch it. I mean, Zemeckis does a lot of stuff that I really, really like. Anne Hathaway is one of my absolute all-time favorites. Stanley Tucci is a god.
Yes.
And again, Octavia Spencer hasn't done anything that I haven't loved, ever, including this. She is, in my mind, the best thing in this movie.
I agree.
I guess you haven't seen Ma then.
Oh God, no, I haven't. You're right. So maybe, but, and I'm not, I don't regret that I saw it. I don't. I am disappointed in what it turned out to be, in a lot of ways. I think it swung for the fences and missed, but it was a fast, fun time at the plate, and so yeah, your mileage may vary. Not Emily. Hi, I was at your last live stream. Shout out, please. Shout out. Not Emily.
Hi, Emily.
So whoever you really are, Emily.
I'm not Emily. We know you're not Emily.
Yeah,
exactly.
I would also like to shout out to Emily, whomever Emily is as well.
Yes,
Shout out to you.
whoever you are
whoever
pretending to
Emily
not
really
be. Anyway. Real quickly, let's go around and again, say goodbye and tell people where they can find the fun stuff you do. And again, we'll start with Ashley.
Awesome. Hi. You can find me at deathbecomes.her. No. Yeah, my name is Ashley Lauren Rogers again. If you are into theater, if you're into a lot of other just weird things, I have a stage combat show that we've had to do through the internet now, and it's been very weird, and we found reasons to fight without actually physically touching each other. You can find all that stuff at ashleylaurenrogers.com. You can go to isittransphobic.com to hear my podcast where I talk all about.
It's a good podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, I sit down with a group of trans and non-binary folks, and we discuss media and talk about whether it's transphobic and whether it's enjoyable, because sometimes it can be both. Yep. Oh, and one last thing that I will promote other than RUR, which is happening through No Exit Theater Collective. You can find them on Facebook. We're going to be doing Rossum's Universal Robots next Thursday, direct competition with this. But also, if you have a young one, if you are a young one, if you just like media meant for all ages, check out Girl Tales podcast. They just released my episode Rosie and the Dreamweaver, which is absolutely inspired by all of my love for that 80s horror and steampunk and all the things that I enjoy. It's got a talking frog. How can you say no?
Awesome. Go.
Hi, again, I am Gogo Incognito. All you really need to do to find me on the internet is go to Google or whatever your search thing and type in Gogo Incognito. I've been most active recently on Instagram. I post pictures all the time, and you get to see what my real life is like a lot of times in the stories. So I've usually got good stuff going on. I do recommend that you be 18 years or over before checking out my stuff because there are boobs.
Yeah, I was just about to be dirty old man go, oh yeah, there are, but you know.
That's fine. No.
I'll back that off.
That's fine.
And Sleepy Boy Byron.
Okay. I'm on YouTube. I'm on TikTok. I'm on damn near all the social medias. Got my webcomic which I need to finish for this week. Codename Blackbird on it's www.codenameblackbird.thecomicseries.com, and I'm again on Instagram, the artist known as Byron D0, and you can find my podcast, the Weed Trash Can Podcast, earlier episodes on Google, on the various Google outlets and iTunes.
And you can find Byron's writings at www.nerdcaliber.com and video reviews on occasion on our YouTube channel. I'm Rodney Brown, editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. We are at any social media you want /Nerd Caliber. Keep it nice and simple. And thanks everybody for participating, for putting up with my bitchy comments. And
dare you?
I think next week, right now, tentatively, we're scheduled to do Bill and Ted, the new Bill and Ted.
I need to watch that.
Exactly. So we'll see you. We'll see you next Thursday. It's 2 Thursdays is Thanksgiving, so we won't see you then. So we'll see you next Thursday. If you want to talk about Bill and Ted and don't mind spoilers. If you want the nerd news, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, same time, 8 o'clock Eastern, and we talk about nerd news from the past week. And check us out then. Thank you all. Good night.